Welcome to Coming About with David Paragamian, the podcast that dives deep into the minds of leaders who have transformed their businesses and industries, paving the way for a better future. Here's Dave.
My guest this week on Coming About is Dr. Susan Dorfman. Susan is the president and CEO of CMI Media Group. We're going to dive into her transformative journey, exploring key moments in her life and her career. Susan brings almost 20 years experience leading CMI to excel in strategic media planning for the life sciences industry. Recognized as a true innovator, she's pioneered data-driven approaches, delivered targeted strategies for healthcare clients, and built an incredible business with a super positive culture. Get ready for an insightful conversation with a real trailblazer in the field. Susan, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Maybe the place to start, Susan, before we get into any of the career things is, I know that maybe one of the first pivots is a life pivot where you came to the U.S. You weren't born here. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So I was born in the Ukraine, came here at a young age with my parents as refugees, no English, very long journey, almost a year to get here through Austria, through Italy, which was a common destination for refugees like myself and my parents. So no English, moved to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, of all places with my family, $0 to our name. It was quite challenging going to school, having no clothes of my own and kind of getting donations, including clothing donations where I probably for a long time looked like a little boy. People, I don't think, knew that I was a little girl coming into the school. No English, short hair, awkward. But that was part of the journey.
Thanks for sharing that as honestly and humbly as you just did. I know there's probably a million life lessons in there about persevering, overcoming, knowing when to ask for help. And even now, with all of your success as you look back over those years, this helps me understand when I watch you paying it back and I see all the things you do to help young employees in your organization, employees that may have come from different backgrounds than someone else. That really helps me understand the leader that I see that you are, the way you help pull people along and reach that hand back and get people. Now I get where that comes from. I mean, there's a ton of lessons from a story like that.
Yeah, there's a ton of lessons. I do have to say that I'm really thankful for my parents, first of all, for being brave to leave their families, their country, their language, their life for something better, to seek something better and not be afraid. Not be afraid of failure, not being afraid to start over, not being afraid of the unknown. And, when you grow up in that kind of what I'll call immigrant or migrant culture where you leave things behind and just go, 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 nothing is ever too hard. Nothing is ever, you're thankful for everything. You're appreciative of everything. There's no failure that's a failure, but more of a lesson or a pivot. So I'm really thankful to them for giving me that opportunity to see it in them and to live it with them.
Yeah. No, and you said so many smart things in these first 2 minutes, but one of them I just want to underline, which is the being brave enough to try something new, not being afraid to fail. And I think that helps explain your career journey. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that'll be really exciting for the listener. Where did you start your professional career? Because I know that it wouldn't be a predictor of where you are today. So tell me about that first job.
Oh my God, my first real job, or my first kind of job. I'll tell you a little bit about my first job, which was in a men's clothing store. I was in college and I got a job across the street from university for a men's clothing store in New York City that had a lot of actors. That was my first job. And I loved it because I kind of realized that I'm a very social person, and that I'm an honest person, and working in a men's clothing store and having all of these movie stars come to you and you not being intimidated by them and being honest and helping and serving them. And it gave me a life lesson that you shouldn't, also don't be intimidated, don't be afraid, don't be intimidated by someone just because they are world renowned. They're humans and people too. And that was wonderful. My first career out of college was actually with the American Society of Civil Engineers, and then soon, very quickly, transitioned to the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, where I was an editor. That was probably the start of my career because I had a mentor there who was our CTO who saw potential in me that I never saw. He was a micromanager, and everyone was horrified and mortified to work with him. Being an only child and being a child of a mother who would probably have been a micromanager if she was working, but just a very strong personality, I'll say. He never intimidated me. So I was always very welcoming to him, and there was no challenge also with him that was too hard. I brought him into my journey with everything that he wanted to know and needed to know. I welcomed him, and nothing was too hard. Everything was doable, and that's where he said, I want to introduce you. It was the start of the internet, kind of B2B, really large, opportunities in the market, and said, I want you to thrive. You have this opportunity. And he introduced me to a recruiter. Said, oh my God, you're introducing me to a recruiter. I can't leave you guys. I can't leave the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. And I got an offer that I just couldn't refuse. And that was the start of my really advanced professional journey.
One of the things I wanted to pull out a little bit is, you use the word mentor to describe the relationship. And I think we should talk a little bit, because certainly for, I think, the listener, sometimes people think, well, will a mentor be identified and handed to me? Will I know that this person is a mentor and I can tap him or her on the shoulder and say, hey, you're my mentor. What are you going to mentor me today? And it sounds like at the time, you probably didn't know that that was the right nomenclature to hang over this relationship, that was your mentor. It was just someone who was this incredibly knowledgeable, somewhat intimidating. Others chose to sort of navigate around the individual. And you said, no, wait, I can learn from this person. And it's probably years later you look back and say, oh, no, wait, that was a mentor, right?
Mentor is a really big word. And, we ourselves get to choose who we want our mentors to be by sometimes working and collaborating with them, sometimes just by watching and observing. Both positive, I will say, as well as negative. You can have mentors in your life, people that you choose to observe, maybe even people who you work with, who are mentors to you because you see them doing things that you don't often love and will never want to emulate either. But most of the time it is a mentor is a positive word that we use, and someone that we choose to coach us in scenarios. And it really is on us to find those mentors. I will say that when it is a true mentorship, there is a collaboration involved. There is a give and take. There is it's more than just looking back and saying he was my mentor or she was my mentor at the time. It is much more of a collaboration and much more purposeful.
Yeah. No, and I love the fact that you said we get to choose our mentors, right? That there is this voluntary act of us saying, no, this is somebody that I really want to learn from. And I totally agree that idea that we learn both the good, hopefully more good, but we also learn the not so good. And golly, I don't want to do it that way when it's my turn, for sure.
Yeah, and finding people who will be, in some ways, who can be those mentors, those coaches for us. That's an important part of thriving. It's an important part of any level of career that you're in, no matter how high you go, no matter what you do, no matter what title you have. Having someone that could be that coach, that could be that mentor, someone that you can continue to grow and learn from is incredibly important. Till this day, having my mentors, having my different coaches, my partners that I can bounce things off of, continue to learn and develop from is incredibly important.
In your journey, Susan, after that interesting start in the Society of Industrial Electrical Engineers, I know that your journey before we got to CMI, where we spent the last decade and a half, there were some stops at both nonprofit organizations as well as obviously, commercial profit businesses. Can you talk a little bit about that interesting sort of back and forth between the nonprofit and the profit world, and things that were different, things that were the same, things you learned? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
I worked for the American Society of Civil Engineers and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, both of which are nonprofit, but that does not mean non-revenue organizations. So the IEEE, which is renowned for technology, computer science, certainly at that time it was an evolving organization, spent a tremendous amount of money on technology, on innovation, on doing things differently. And of course, we were connected with some of the most brilliant minds in the industry. That gave me opportunities that I'm very, very thankful for. Obviously, the structure was a bit different. We were there to serve members of the organization. It was an organization for our membership, which was worldwide. So our revenue streams were a bit different than the revenue streams that you would from a commercial organization. So my first kind of journey into the commercial organization was for the first B2B internet service provider called Icon CMT. We also were the first to launch a webzine. This is going back so many years ago. Gosh, I'm revealing my age. The pace was likely, I think the biggest difference is the pace and the pivoting. So when you're serving customers, in this case, it was with Icon, our predominant customer base was financial institutions at the time. The pace is a lot different. It's a lot quicker. The stakes are a lot different in terms of making decisions, choosing the right, direction to go to. And of course, being the first or even the second is always opportunistic to be able to capture the industry, do things in a unique and different way, things that have never been done before, as opposed to this is how we've done it in the past. So I think those are some of the biggest differences. People too, right? The kind of people that you may attract to a startup, small or large, may have a different perspective, a different mindset in terms of doing innovative things, learning, adjusting, pivoting, not thinking about things as mistakes, but as lessons learned, the ability to move quickly and do things differently. I think that's also an interesting dimension of larger organizations and smaller organizations is the ability to rely on self and not on 100 different people to get things done, the speed in which things get done, and the expectations, right? You move at a pace that probably could be problematic. And when you go from large to small, when you go from nonprofit to profit, when you go from layers to, very small condensed teams where you're responsible for everything and have to do hands-on, it's just different expectations. And I think having the opportunity to work for all kinds of companies, for-profit, nonprofit, for smaller startups as well as larger organizations, it really gives you such dimension to everything that you do. Nothing, right? It's like being an immigrant. It's like nothing scares you anymore. Everything is possible. So that's pretty awesome.
I think a great insight I would suggest for the listener is that the old career paradigm of the stair step up from assistant brand manager to group brand manager to direct, that sort of stair step. I personally believe that, I don't know if that's gone, but I think that's the vast minority of career cases. I think the vast majority of career cases are people who are assembling experiences that give cumulative value. And as I listen to your history, your journey from nonprofit organizations, profit organizations, it was slightly commercial, it was project management, and leading obviously to a CEO role. It feels like we're stringing together all these pearls, and you now look back and see the beautiful necklace that you've built, and it's the cumulative value of all of those experiences. And to encourage the listener that's listening to us today to say, there isn't a right or a wrong. It's how you make that decision right. It's how you accumulate all those experiences in your journey and your growth. I heard you use that language of the growth mentality, that it isn't win or lose. It isn't a binary thing. It's I either win or I learn, and I learn how to do things better is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And I think there's also, when we look for talent, I think it's important to not only look for experience, but actually to be able to seek capability, to be able to seek a desire from people, this proactive desire to do. And if that's self-starter, for certain roles, not every role is going to require that, but based on the role that you need, to seek someone's strengths and capabilities and not just look at past experience.
Totally agree. For the last 15 years, you've been on an incredible run up through a wonderful company that has gone through a tremendous period of growth and is a market leader in the industry that you serve at CMI. Tell me a little bit about what was the decision to, how do I join this company? Why do I join this company? I'd love to know about that thought process as you embarked.
Yeah. So as I was making a decision of where my next move was going to be, I had known our current chairman, Stan Woodland. I had known him and CMI Media Group, CMI at that time, Communications Media Inc., as it was known, for quite some time as a customer, as a partner. One thing that I knew about this agency was the decency of the people. You can be a part of the best, like the leading, the most innovative company. But if the people aren't great, if the people aren't decent, because we're in the people business no matter what we do, if they're not great for you, that's always going to be a thorn on your side. So I had known them, I had known the agency, I had known the leader of this business as one of the most decent, good people that I have ever had a chance to meet. So that was that. And I trusted him. That trust, knowing that you can trust someone. And, when you bring someone into your organization, when you join an organization, it's not just you, it's your family, it's everything. There has to be this trust that, hey, where I'm going is a good, decent place. The second thing, obviously, is to look at potential. So when I had joined CMI, people used to say to me, oh my God, it's the best kept secret. And at that time, media maybe not as important as it is today, going back so many years ago. And what I realized they had, coming from a large technology and data company, and having that data background as my base, not media background, what I realized was they had this asset. And at that time, it was used but underutilized for the industry. And frankly, no one was talking about big data. No one was talking about precision marketing. No one was talking about these things. And coming from a world of CRM, I knew the importance of the data, I think, way before anyone else realized that importance of the data. And I remember sitting down with Stan and him saying, take a look at our agency, see what we have and where you want to be. He gave me an opportunity to design my own job description and my own job. Like, who does that? And I remember sitting down with him and I remember saying, you have this asset. And this is the asset that is going to it's going to change the way advertising is done. It's going to allow us to bring in an RM, relationship marketing, CRM type of component into the mix and allow us to know exactly who we have a chance to reach. And I remember being so excited about that. And today, going on 15 almost years, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I go to work every day and I'm like one of the most excited people. I'm not just a CEO. I'm a believer in everything that we do and everything that we offer. And the foundation of it has grown tremendously, but we are still in the people serving business. That is what we do, with the precision of knowing exactly who we can reach, exactly who we have reached, and exactly the impact of that reach that it has on our clients' business. And if that's not the North Star, I don't know what is. So that's, you could probably hear it, my excitement, my belief in everything that we do. And that's why I joined. And that's why I love what we do. And when I talk to individuals who don't work for us, I think they feel it and see it. And when they join us, I think they live and breathe that as well.
Thank you. You've said a number of things. I want to just kind of grab a couple threads, one of which at the start was about culture. And I know Stan Woodland as well and have great respect for him, agree with every word you said. And so for me, again, I think the lesson perhaps for the proposed lesson for the listener is culture really matters. There's that old saw that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I believe that, and it sounds like that's advice you'd give someone as well.
It is. And I know a lot of people talk about cultural fits. And for our agency, I think it's also about cultural ads. One of the things that we focus on is bringing people with good hearts. So good, people who are good, people who are all for good. That is a key component of what we do. And when you bring in good people and when you enable that cultural ad, so you don't have the same perspective, but you have many different perspectives, different points of view, you are accepting. We often say that we are family. And I think if you talk to people within our agency, you'll find that to be really true. We treat each other as family. We are different. And yet we are all contributing to the same thing and have a common thread of, I hope, just being good people.
I love that. And I want to get more into the culture aspect that you've built so well at CMI. But we have to take a quick pause here. Next time on Coming About, Susan Dorfman, the president and CEO of CMI Media, will share why she embraces a challenger mindset for a business that's number one in its industry.
If you're always in that challenger mindset, if you're always thinking ahead, if you're always thinking about how to, I know that there's a saying that better is the enemy of good. I will say that better is our most important challenger in life. Good is great, but we can and should always strive to evolve.
This has been Coming About. We hope these conversations have left you feeling empowered and ready to take your organization to the next level. To speak with Dave about your business transformation or to learn more about Health Monitor Network, go to healthmonitornetwork.com. And don't forget to check out his book, Coming About, How We Transformed a Major Media Company and the Lessons There for You. Available wherever books are sold. Coming About with David Paragamian is a production of Advantage Audio.